Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? We all good? Apologies, I'm a few minutes late. Was just finishing up some lunch. How's everyone doing this afternoon? We good? All right, give me a couple minutes just to set up. What's going on, Warren? VDC? Alrighty, so let's crack on. Been a pretty dull time in the markets, as I'm sure you're all aware. Corrective period, grind down. Not much action on the trading side. Let's run it through though. Okay. So from the top, BTC. Okay, we can take a look at the higher time frames. Right, so this is the picture on the higher time frame, BTC. You can see that we are peaking above the overextended region on the RSI, which is catching some attention for sure, especially as the chart looks like this. And then if you go down to the slightly lower 3-day, daily, 3-day in particular, because we have both the RSI and the awesome oscillator diverging against price action. Okay. Low highs here, and then price action grinding up. Okay, so it's a clean 3-day bearish divergence, confirmation candle pending on BTC. Okay, go down to the daily, and we can see that momentum clearly painted on the awesome oscillator. But I don't know who needs to hear this. Playing into these divergences, right? Exiting, selling your full portfolio may be the right move to take, but it's a very risky one to do and not one that I advocate myself, okay? Because what can happen, anyone that's familiar with oscillators will know what can happen as we do this, right? And then the oscillator simply just paints this. Something like that. And at that point, the divergence is completely invalidated as it goes past a flat top. And yeah, anyone who's sidelined or capitulated off the back of this is suffering heavily. So yeah, that's the high time frame picture on BTC. The rationale, and just a word of warning to not place too much emphasis on counter trend divergences, regardless of how high a time frame they are. Okay, these signals will be much more prevalent towards the typical late trends of the cycle, right? So once it's been seen that history repeats itself, and we have a proper market-wide alt season. Bitcoin dominance has taken a tanking. ETH BTC has rallied heavily, and there's lots of profits on the table to be taken. At that point, then we can start looking at signals like this. At this point in the market and cycle, I'm not too fussed about it. Okay. Lower time frames on BTC, still very clean. Right, still very clean here. We're just within this channel, okay, and nothing too concerning on this front, okay. You can see this corrective leg here. It's taking out this low. Potential bounce point in the markets. Yet to be seen, okay, yet to be seen. So now over to ETH. What's going on, V? How are you, man? Right, so let's clean up these alerts quickly. So we can see this low on ETH here. We can tag it as equal lows, all right? This is a clean and clear target for ETH BTC to wipe out, for Ethereum to wipe out, okay? You can see here, the first, second, and third low, right? All with resting liquidity that we would like to see swept, right? To give us a good technical trigger to enter. Whether we get it or not is to be seen, basically, okay? Because as we know, in bull markets, we can front run the lows, gone through this multiple times. Looking at the 2 hour though, if we come over to the 2, this would be the ideal scenario in terms of a trigger on the ETH side of things. Would be a 2 hour divergence here. Something like so. Down here. Match it up like so. Right, like this. Okay. So sweep to take out these 3 lows and then a close above. Ideally with a nice candle structure as well to give us that extra bit of confidence. Would be the play for ETH and the only real downside trigger that I'm looking at current, okay? So if you just give me 1 sec. When I talk about downside triggers, I'm talking about triggers to the downside essentially. So price action comes down and then we take a trigger, as opposed to price action going up and taking our trigger on the flip side. Okay. So how can I explain this a bit better? It's one thing trading with the trend, right? And then it's another thing taking only trend side triggers. So I know that this period of price action here recently on ETH, I believe it was this low, this would have trapped many people, right? I know some people that it did trap, and I'm sure there are many of you that this got as well, okay? If it did, don't beat yourself up too much, right? There are some simple tweaks that we can do to prevent this happening in the future. So what we had here was a takeout of a low that had formed across 3.5 days. As it did so, on the 30-minute here, you can see the diverging structure, right? Double divergence, RSI, AO, against the bodies of price. Okay. And let me just pull over the delta chart for ETH as well. So you can see now we've put in a ton of pro-trend negative delta here, but previously we had this bar here, which by all means is still significant. Okay, so by all means this is still significant. This was the local delta to the divergence. As we've covered multiple times with delta, it doesn't have to be immediate, right? So we don't need to see delta on the sweep itself per se. It can be localized, right? So this delta bar here, then drift down, take out this low here. This is still a very valid signal to use as confluence in your trades. The problem with taking triggers to the downside in bull markets is, as you can see, that, right? So that's what I mean by the distinction between trading with the trend, right? We know it's a bull market, generally speaking, we're looking for longs. And then trend side triggers, right? So trend side triggers in bull markets are simply triggers to the upside. In bear markets, triggers to the downside. okay? So as a bunch of you are aware, I'm sure, by following my content, members of my group, etc., it's very simple. The playbook could not be more simple right now, okay? In bull markets, I'm looking for these two structures to form. Horizontal or diagonal breakouts, both of which are characteristic of strength in the asset or the market you're looking at. These are plays to the upside. These are trend side triggers, right? Trend side triggers, because the trend is up. We're in a bull market. We're looking for triggers to the upside, not to the downside. The problem is, and this is a very, very easy trap to fall into, is that you see things like this on ETH, right? And you've been studying, your recent knowledge of sweeps, stop hunts, SFPs, whatever you want to call them, divergences, understanding that we need to operate with confluence and in a confluence manner, and that bolstering a trade thesis with multiple price action triggers is the way forward, as it nets you higher probability. And then you also tick the box of being pro trend. So in your mind, this is a potential 10 out of 10 trade, right? It's a potential 10 out of 10 trade. The mistake that you've made here is that these trades are far riskier, because this could be just the first part of a larger corrective leg like we've seen. And the way to completely obviate that and avoid that from your day-to-day trading is focusing on trades to the upside. Okay. So if we look at some examples of this, I've been pretty hands-off on the trading side of things recently as a result of this practice, right? There haven't been any trades to the upside. There haven't been any breakout triggers. All it is corrective legs on altcoins, right? BTC and ETH as well. And if we get rid of the replay tool here, I have alerts set, right, on previously existing breakout levels, trend side triggers, once again. And these are where I want to step in to do business with the market, okay? I haven't been positioned short side, right? That's not in my playbook. I'm happy not nailing every single move in the markets, right? I'm not the perfect trader. I'm aware of that. I'm cognizant of that. I operate where my edge lies. I wait for my edge to present itself, and then I execute, right? That's basically all I'm doing at the moment. It's super, super simple stuff. All it requires is patience and discipline, okay? And yes, I haven't made money recently because I haven't been trading. I haven't been positioned on the short side. I also haven't taken any positions or lost any money on the long side either, okay? So I'm very happy just taking a beat during these corrective legs, right? These breathers in the bull run, taking a beat, putting my feet up, right? Enjoying time with the family, doing other things that occupy myself, still scanning the markets, of course, right? But waiting for these alerts to go off, okay? So Sui is a prime example of this. You can see that we now have a breakout level on the hourly, 4 touch points, 1, 2, 3, and then this fourth failure here, which gave the level more credence. So it's simple, right? You just wait for these triggers to go off, okay? You wait for trend side triggers, and it will save you so much stress, so much money, so much loss by operating in this manner, okay? If you've been having a tough time recently and these words are resonating with you, just simply stick to trend side triggers, and I promise you, you'll feel a world of relief. So these are some of the strong markets at the moment that I picked out. I don't know why this is here. Morpho. Okay. Again, very strong market. I don't have a trigger here, right? There's no technical structure to work with here. I don't want to be doing this because it's too wide, right? You want your horizontal levels to look tighter, something like this. As a diagonal, also doesn't work. It would be forced. We take it from the bodies here. All right, this is just 2 touch points. If this piece of price action here went up to here and validated that line further, then fine. I might consider positioning on the break here. But again, you know, if we don't see the signs that we need to see, regardless of a market being strong, I'm still going to be patient and wait for those, because we will enter market conditions where things are completely textbook. You have a wealth of setups to choose from, right? A multitude of options on the long side. And you simply have to just wait until those times occur. And it may feel like, you know, this is a bull market. We need to squeeze and extract as much value out of the markets as possible. But we still have to be patient, right? I'm not going to start forcing positions like this, regardless of the strength of the asset. Move is one position that I am in, right? One position that I have taken. I'm sure you can easily see the difference here, right? On this market to any of the other markets, right? So look at this on the hourly. Any of the other markets, right? And don't get me wrong, there are some very tempting setups that are forming, okay? Some very tempting setups. If you look at the hourly structures here, I did an hourly scan earlier on today. Pretty much all the charts are looking like this, right? Beginnings of hourly divergences, move over to the 2 hour, potentially even cleaner. Again, double divergence structures. And I do have alerts set, right? I do have alerts set, but alts are still very, very, very much at the whim of BTC and ETH, right? So unless we've got that 2 hour bull div play out on Ethereum, then maybe I take some of the higher beta assets to long, perhaps. But until then, you just simply have to wait for, you know, the king and queen to do their thing, right? And just follow suit, because these can just keep downtrending and keep downtrending. The divergence can just keep diving, right? The div can keep diving. Anyone who's a avid divergence trader will be very aware of the pains of divergences, just, you know, continually diverging. When you think you've got the Pico bottom or Pico top entry, they just keep diverging, stop you out on your position, and then reverse. The same is potentially very true for some of these assets as well, right? And, you know, what we could see, by all means, is this, right? This is a very, very plausible outcome, okay? We take out kilos, double kilos, do this, right? Textbook divergence, super clean, get it across both the AO and the RSI. But what I want to see with this is that sort of green light from ETH, okay? I want to see that green light here. With this divergence, okay? And we don't need to see the low taken, right? It would be nice to wipe out all of this liquidity. But even if we just come down here, paint a very clean divergence, then I'd be much more confident in scaling into alts using downside triggers. But until then, we just need to preserve our capital, right? Protect our situation, and understand that if the bull run is to continue, which I believe it is, and I'm sure most of you do as well, that there'll be plenty and plenty of opportunities on the trend side trigger side of things. And we don't want to burn ourselves out. We don't want to blow out our accounts in the process, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. And just understand when to take your foot off the gas a bit. This stream is largely about this notion of trend side triggers, right? So I've shown you sort of locally and recently how it could have saved you if you have been trying to long the dips, etc. Saved you capital. I'm just going to paint a different scenario for you here. Right, so let's say this is the cycle, all right? You take long here, right? Trend side trigger. You take long on this horizontal break. Okay, take it up to here. Take another long here. Diagonal break. Once again, diagonal break. You've taken, let's say this, this is scaled out to a factor of 100 or whatever, right? So you've taken 300 trades, breakout trades, mixture of horizontal trades and diagonal breakout trades, right? And then the cycle tops out. You don't get any more of these triggers, right? What a lot of people do, they don't really realize when the trend has properly shifted, right? They're stuck in their bull market narratives. They're listening to everyone on Twitter saying that we're gonna 2x from here. Right, so what they're looking to do when we come down here is they're seeing this perhaps as a pocket of demand, right? They say, we're moving into demand, right? This is just a corrective leg. I'm going to do the right thing and buy the blood here, right? I'm longing this blood, targeting here. Only to get stopped out immediately, right? Then we come down here. We say, okay, cool. Well, that sucked. But let's say there's, a zone of SR in here or whatever it is. We're going to try our hands again. Okay, going to try and long again because this is still the bull market. Stopped out again. And this can happen over and over and over again, right? You've been trading the bull market really well, but now you're giving back most of your profits by longing dips, doing so aggressively. And I've done this in a very general picture, but some of the students that I worked with before have averaged down on multiple positions as well, right? So they're not just taking this position with normal size, they're seeing this as, generational entry opportunity on the trading side of things. So when they do go underwater, they're consistently adding to their positions in here. Right, palms are sweaty, cortisol's high, and they end up giving back a ton of the hard graft and work and the rare opportunity that the market's offering you by trading this bull run here, right? On the flip side, if you focus on trend side triggers only, the only error you can make here is not flipping over to trend side triggers on the short side fast enough. But you will retain 100% of the trading profits that you've made in the bull run. Okay? So I don't know who needs to hear this, right? If it's helpful to any of you. But unless you're a market wizard, you've been trading and nailing the market on both sides, I imagine this is a very valuable lesson for all of you to nail home. Okay? Trade with the trend side triggers, right, at your back. Take long positions only. Until we get proper signs that, market conditions have changed, we're now in a new regime, a bear market's upon us, then you can start focusing on trend side triggers the other way, right? It's the same thing. We're looking for breakdowns, not breakouts. Okay, but it's exactly the same playbook, just reversed. Right, so here, horizontal break, short, diagonal, short once again. Okay, it's the same playbook. But I just wanted to make this massive distinction between trading with the trend and then actually trading with the trend, right? And only focusing on trend side triggers. Where do you set your stop loss for these trend following trades? Right, so in this case here, what we always want to see is consolidation prior to the break, right? So levels validated by multiple touch points, then we'd see consolidation prior to the break, in this case a breakdown. Enter on the confirmation candle, right? So the candle close past this level. It feels weird opening the short tool. And that's it, right? So it's just past the other side of the consolidation. Right, you don't want to do it at the other side of the breakout candle, which would likely be here and too tight, just in case we get a bit of volatility. You don't want to be doing it down here, as it makes your RR stupid, right? But just the other side of the consolidation is great. All right, nice sweet spot. Thoughts on existing too many alts and very diluted liquidity and not very strong old seasons? Perhaps. But if we look at our totals, right, higher time frames on the totals, then we should hypothetically start seeing price discovery on the totals, right? And we're going into the trillions that we haven't seen before. So yes, there's diluted liquidity, but there's also more of it as well, right? More to choose from, but there'll be a higher market cap and more money flowing around, right, as well. So not too worried about that. If it is so, right, then it's just a case of the asset class maturing, and we're looking at slightly less multiples, but nothing too concerning. Okay. What else did I want to run through with you guys? Yeah, we can do a quick scan if you like. See if anything sticks out. I'm going to go for the 4 hour now. So I've done an hourly earlier. But whilst I'm scanning, can you guys tell me if you've been trading recently? If so, what trades you've been taking? If you feel like you've been making any errors, we can perhaps run through some together as well. Right, so I'll be interested to see what you guys have been taking, or if you've just been sitting on your hands. Either way, no worries. And again, look, I'm still setting these alerts. All right, it can't hurt to have these alerts in place. But I do want to see that confirmation from BTC and ETH first before I start taking any downside triggers. I can see already this is diverging just based on the price structure. Yeah, clearly they're on the AO. No trades from you guys? Are they? And the triggers to the upside as well can, well, if we take something like this, for instance, I wouldn't call this a trigger to the upside, even though you're taking it to the upside technically, right? But deviation plays, right, could be nice entries if we get that confirmation from ETH. ETH long from the flush last week. Let's take a look. From here. You around break even, Morin? Was it somewhere in here? Could have taken more off when we swept the highs. Sure. Yep, that makes sense. But again, you know, don't beat yourself up, right? Because you could have been holding on to a really nice position trade as well. See myself getting too married to position when I nail the entries. Yeah, very, very common. I'm not even going to call it a mistake, right? Because once the market gets more frothy, then those quote unquote mistakes will be very rewarding. November took Badger on 3.5 run into 4.6, expecting 5.1, but round trip to break even because of these two flushes. Yeah, Badger got hit quite hard. I was looking at Badger earlier. And a very solid example of why I'm not focusing on higher time frame setups at the moment. Right, run through this before. Clean break here. And it's just a full round trip here from a breakout trade. Right, the market's not quite there yet. All right, we can see that in plain sight here. Sure, there are outliers. But generally speaking, we need to still be quite quick to take profits on the perp side. As I've said before, spot is a very different situation. Right? I don't really like micromanaging spot too much. That's more of an investment play. But yeah, this is a very good example of just a full round trip situation. V, also long ETH, but TP'd majority, kept small position on for now, plus compounding. Nice. Nice setup on ETH. We go into daily demand below and sweep the lows. Daily demand. Yeah. Like so. Yeah, nice spot, Morin. Nice spot. So 2 hour div into that would be very clean. Right, really nice setup. Daniel, long on ENS and ENA. ENS from the sweep just an hour ago. ENA from yesterday's dump. ENS and ENA, man. They've been nice to trade. Talking about this sweep here, Daniel. ENS hold up pretty well here though. Right, it's been pretty strong throughout the whole cycle. Compare this to the badges, right, or any of the other charts we've skimmed through. It's a very different picture. So good job, right? Focusing on strength at the bare minimum. Aegon. Or are you long from here, Daniel? This sweep here. Just be very aware of these lows as well. Right. I mean, if ETH does go for that sweep of the lows, it's very likely this gets taken as well. Check out Zen from Morin. Is that Horizon? Yeah, nice. Looks good. Looks good. Okay. So some of the stronger assets will see reactions here, basically, into this sort of cluster here. It's technically an order block, but we've been seeing it across quite a few 4-hour structures. Let's see if we can skim through and see any, and sort of see the distinction between some of them, right? So this is basically the same order block here, but you can see on the weaker assets, we didn't even come up to retest, let alone retested it successfully. But the stronger assets have had reactions in those blocks. Again here. So this should tell you clues about, and again, to sound like a broken record, focus on strength, right? If this was a strong enough asset, it would have bounced here. Okay, so a nice cluster of demand in here. This should have been the bounce point, and we can see that it's not. Okay, so what I've said to you guys multiple times before is like, focus on the trend, not the setup. Okay, because it's very, very tempting to see diverging structures at the lows and position into them, but simply focusing on strong assets alone, even with little to no confluence, is painfully the way that's going to be the easiest for you to trade. So again, happy to set the triggers. Doesn't mean I'm taking them. All right, this one's already been swept. What about this? And by all means, guys, like, don't get it twisted. This could be the bounce point in the markets, right? This could 100% be the bounce point on alts, right? Alts that look like alt and algo, taking out 4-hour lows for sure. All right, for sure. But that scenario that I mapped out earlier for you in terms of taking trend side triggers, right, and preserving all of your profits is something that I really want you guys to start practicing, because I imagine it will do your P&L a world of good. And sure, you might miss entries like this, fine, but it doesn't matter really, because then we start doing something like this, right, and you get your trade anyway. Okay, like, it's very, very hard to tell if the correction is done unless we get that confirmation from BTC and ETH, right, on isolated markets. It's much safer to play into trend side triggers. Fartcoin, we need to mute that word, V. Thoughts on Sol? All right, let's have a look. Sol's been fairly weak recently. All right, so daily demand previously. I have a note on here now, weakened. This hasn't been updated, but you can see it's been cut through now. Okay. There's nothing of too much concern here on Sol. Right, the only thing I don't really like is that we've lost the mid-level on RSI. But now we've taken out pretty much every low in this area. Right, again, taking out 4-hour lows. We could see something like this. Perhaps. But again, I'd rather wait for that confirmation to occur, right? See that reaction from the alts market wide, get the confirmation from ETH and BTC, and instead of taking position here, where we put ourselves at much higher risk, right? I just do it here instead. Okay, it's simple. It's just risk management essentially, guys. It's knowing when to be patient, knowing when to enter, knowing when to do business. It's as simple as that. How do you trade the sweeps? Reclaim of level and structure. Well, if I was playing the sweep here, then it would be as simple as playing the sweep, right? So you're just taking confirmation on the close. That's it, right? That's how I play sweeps. As a result of that, I need to have a lot of things lining up, right? Because that's it's an aggressive entry for most. Angelo, what's up? What's up? How you doing? Little late. Yeah, we're just about to round up, mate. Just missed alpha of the year. All right, that trend line as well. Yeah. So again, just be patient with it, right? Just be patient with everything. And even for myself, I was tentative to take this on move, right? I didn't take it with too much size, 70% of my usual. It's a nice setup for sure, but I'm just aware of the market conditions at the moment, aware that my edge lies on the long side, right? So I'm only looking for long side triggers. But yeah, I just really want to get that confirmation from ETH and BTC before putting my foot back on the gas. And yeah, it's been a quieter time, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Right, so I'm probably going to wrap things up here, guys. I'm aware of the market, what things look like, unless you've got any more questions for me. In terms of bullish or bearish pennants, I always break in the straight line and not the diagonal. Can you give me feedback, or is that just a matter of trend? I don't really, I don't talk about things like pennants and triangles and all these different baby pips patterns, right? It doesn't matter what we call them particularly. All I'm looking for is just these two, right? VTC, so keep it very, very, easy for you. It's just straight lines or diagonal lines, right? It's as simple as that. Okay, don't overcomplicate it. Don't start looking for patterns in the market. All right, it doesn't matter about patterns. Like patterns talk about the whole structure of price. So for instance, this would validate it as a triangle, right? But I don't really look at, well, I do actually. I look at this in terms of structure, i.e. this is making higher lows, right? But I'm not drawing triangles out. I'm not drawing pennants out. I'm not looking at stuff that's like this and drawing a pennant, okay? It's primarily just looking at the trigger to the upside, right? So I'm focusing on the horizontal levels, diagonal levels. In both cases, ideally looking for some compression, consolidation prior to the break, even on diagonals as well. We need to take into account the market context as well, right? So as I said, I haven't gone particularly heavy on move, right? 75% of my usual position sizing. Reason being is because I'm aware of the market context, right? The market isn't exploding parabolically everywhere. Otherwise, I would have sized in more to this position. You can also see that we have a divergence present, which is not really what we want to see in terms of taking breakout trades, right? So I've sized in lower. But again, this is my only position at the moment, and the first position I've taken in quite some time. All right, guys. I think we've covered everything off today. If you've been burnt at all longing the dips, then just practice a bit of kindness, pat yourself on the back, understand that these things happen. And I really, really hope some of you take on board the notion of trend side triggers, right? It will help you massively in trending markets, help you preserve all your capital, right, at all times in terms of a minor or major scale, right? In terms of, you know, if you're talking about transitioning from a bull to a bear, or even just simply within bull markets as we are now. Yes, you may miss out on opportunities, fine. But I imagine my shot in the air would be that your equity curve would massively benefit to almost 99% of you here. Okay, so just take that into account. I took off the sell button. Perfect. Yeah, that's the way to be. All right. Listen, guys, it's been lovely catching up. Yeah, I'll catch you guys on Twitter or in the Cord, and have a lovely weekend.